Chapter 1, The Fall. The week after I lost my job, I kept waking up at 6 a.m., not because I had to, but because my body didn't know how to stop working. For 27 years, 6 a.m. meant meetings, reports, motion. Now it meant silence. Linda, my wife, tried to be gentle. "Maybe take some time off," she said. But rest feels different when you didn't choose it. Every minute of stillness reminded me that someone else had decided my worth. I told myself I'd find another job. I polished my resume, checked job boards, sent out 50 applications. No one called back. One recruiter finally wrote, "We're looking for someone more current." That word stung worse than the rejection. The house felt smaller every day. I spent hours in the garage, pretending to fix things that weren't broken. My hands wanted to move, my mind wanted to run, but everything I'd built, my identity, had vanished overnight. Then came the numbers. The 401k, dropping day after day, red lines eating. Through years of savings, I watched CNBC like a man watching his own heartbeat fade on a monitor. Every dip felt personal, every uptick felt like false hope. One afternoon, I drove to the office parking lot. I told myself I just wanted to see it again. My ID badge didn't work at the gate. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the glass building that no longer needed me. Inside those windows, someone else was probably sitting at my old desk using my mug, answering my emails. I should have felt angry. Instead, I felt weightless, like a page torn from a book, floating without purpose. That night, Linda asked if I was okay. I told her, "It's just a phase," but I didn't believe it, because deep down, I knew the truth. I hadn't just lost a job, I'd lost the rhythm of being needed. Still, in that collapse, something quiet started forming. Not hope, not yet. Just a faint whisper saying, "If everything can fall apart this fast, maybe it can be rebuilt just as quietly." Chapter 2, The First 1%. Change it started with a neighbor, Ms. Johnson, 82 years old. White hair, steady steps, always walking the same route every morning. I used to see her from my porch, passing by with her small dog, rain or shine. There she was, moving forward. One morning I asked, "Why do you walk every day?" She looked at me and smiled. "Because it's the one thing I can still control." That line hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent months trying to control everything I couldn't. The market, my job, my past. But not once had I tried to control what I could. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her words over and over. The one thing I can still control. The next morning, I put on my old sneakers. The soles were cracked, the laces frayed. But it didn't matter. I told myself I'd walk just one block. Not to lose weight. Not to feel better. Just to prove that I could still start something. It was cold that morning. The air stung my lungs. My knees ached, but halfway down the street, I felt something strange. The noise in my head, the constant worry, the regret. It started to fade. For the first time in months, my thoughts were quiet. When I reached the end of the block, I stopped. I could have turned back. But I didn't. I walked one more, and that's how it began, one block at a time. Every morning, I added a little more, 5 minutes. Then 10, then 20, no goals. No finish line, just progress, quiet and steady. After a week, I started carrying a small notebook. Each day, I wrote down one thing I'd done right. Sometimes it was walk 20 minutes. Sometimes it was didn't check the stock market. It didn't matter how small it was, because small was the only thing that worked. I called it my 1% rule. Do one small thing every day that makes me 1% better. At first, it was just walking. Then it became cleaning the garage, fixing a loose hinge, paying a bill on time. Each act was tiny, but each one rebuilt a brick of my confidence. One morning, I realized something for the first time in years. I wasn't just surviving the day, I was building one. That's the thing about habits. You don't notice when they start changing your life, but one day, you wake up and the person in the mirror doesn't look broken anymore. Chapter 3. The money that grew from walking, the walks got longer, and somewhere between the rhythm of my steps and the sound of my breath, I found silence, not emptiness, just space. And in that space, new thoughts started to form. One morning, as I passed the local park, I saw a man sitting on a bench, listening to something on his phone, nodding slowly. He looked about my age. I asked him what he was listening to. "Finance podcasts," he said. "It keeps me sharp." That night, I searched for one. I found a show called Money Over Time. It wasn't flashy, just a guy explaining how compound growth works, how small investments, done consistently, can rebuild a future. I started listening during my walks, every day, one episode. At first, I didn't understand half of it, but I kept listening. 30 minutes a day, 365 days a year. That's more than 180 hours of learning, more than I'd ever studied in college. And the more I learned, the less afraid I felt, because fear only grows in silence. When you start learning, you start seeing patterns, and when you see patterns, you stop panicking. After 6 months, I looked at my old retirement fund again, the same account I couldn't bear to open before. Instead of staring at losses, I started seeing opportunities, small, steady, boring ones, index funds, dividend stocks, real estate trusts. Nothing dramatic, just consistent. I reinvested what was left, $40,000, and I made a promise to myself. No chasing trends, no checking daily charts. Just one rule: consistency over emotion. It felt strange at first, to act without fear. But over time, something incredible happened. My walks and my investments started following the same rhythm. Slow, steady, upward. Every morning, I'd walk. Every month, I'd add a little more to my account. And after a year, my balance had grown tenfold, 10 times more than when I'd started walking that first block. It wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was rhythm, the same rhythm that walking had taught me. The same way one step led to another. One small decision led to a different life. People think success after 50 is impossible. But the truth is, we don't fail because we're too old. We fail because we stop starting small. And once you learn that progress doesn't have to be fast, it just has to be steady, everything changes. Chapter 4. The habit multiplies when you do something small every day. People start to notice, even if you don't. I didn't plan on inspiring anyone. I was just walking, learning and writing small notes in my journal. But one morning, as I passed the same route I'd walked for months, a man from the neighborhood waved at me. "Still walking, huh?" he said. I laughed. "Yeah, still walking." The next day he joined me. We didn't talk much, just walked side by side in silence. After a few days, another person came, then another. Soon we had a small group, 5, maybe 6 of us, all walking the same path at the same time. Every morning, someone called us the morning circle. We didn't start it, it just happened. After each walk, we'd sit on a bench and talk about life. Not about politics, not about the news, just about what we were trying to fix in ourselves. One woman said she hadn't slept through the night in years. A man admitted he hadn't spoken to his son in months. We're all broken in our own quiet ways, but when we met somehow, we felt whole again. I started posting small updates online. Nothing fancy, just short notes about what walking had taught me. Things like, progress is quiet, and the habit that saves you doesn't have to be big, it just has to be yours. People started commenting, then sharing, then asking for advice. That's when I created a small online group, Retire Smartly, place for people like me, people who'd lost their rhythm and wanted it back. We shared tips, investment lessons, even walking routes. Within a few months, hundreds joined. Within a year, thousands. I didn't mean to start a community. I just wanted to stay consistent. But somehow, my small circle had become a network, and that network became something real. We began hosting free sessions on health, money, and mindset. People who'd once felt invisible started teaching others. Some launched side businesses, others reconnected with family, and all of it began with a few people walking the same block together. One morning, during our usual walk, I looked around at everyone, smiling, breathing, talking, and I realized something. Success had never been about money or timing. It was about connection, about remembering that we don't heal alone. The habit that saved my retirement had. Quietly started saving other people's lives too, and maybe that's what real wealth is, when your small change multiplies beyond you. Chapter 5. The Reverse Regret. It had been almost 2 years since that morning I started walking. Life had settled into a rhythm, simple, steady, enough. Then one afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey Tom, it's Mark from the office. Do you have a minute to talk?" For a second I froze. Mark, my old manager, the man who'd once told me, "It's not personal," the man who'd handed me my severance check with a polite smile. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying, "Sure, what's going on?" He called a few minutes later. His voice sounded different, heavier somehow. "Tom," he said, "our team's been struggling. We're short on consultants who understand long-term planning. You were always good at that. Would you consider helping us out?" For a moment I didn't say anything. Part of me wanted to laugh, another part wanted to hang up. But instead I just asked, "What's the rate?" He paused. What do you usually charge?" I looked out the window. The sun was low, turning the sky the color of old gold. I said it calmly. $300 an hour. Silence. Then he said, "All right. Send me your availability." After we hung up, I sat there quietly. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't even feel proud. I just felt free. For years I'd carried this invisible weight, the idea that I'd failed, that I'd been left behind. But in that moment, I realized something simple and true. The world hadn't moved past me. I had simply taken a different path, one that finally fit me. People often talk about regret like it's a shadow that never leaves. But sometimes, if you wait long enough, that shadow turns into proof that you were walking toward the right light all along. That night, Linda poured me a glass of wine. "To new beginnings," she said. I raised my glass and smiled. "To endings that became them." Chapter 6. The Real Profit. The morning after that call, I went back to the park, the same path, the same trees, the same quiet rhythm of footsteps. But everything felt different now. Not because I was richer, but because I was lighter. I thought about all the years I'd spent chasing things, promotions, recognition, numbers on a screen, all the things that vanished the moment someone said, "You're no longer needed." And now, after everything, I finally understood what I should have been chasing all along. Time. Time to breathe. Time to walk. Time to become someone new. When I got home, Linda was in the garden. The lavender she'd planted years ago was blooming again. I knelt beside her, helped pull a few weeds, and for a moment, I realized this was it. This was what wealth felt like. The sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet satisfaction of having just enough. In the afternoon, I sat at my desk, the same one where I'd once stared at job listings, and opened my old notebook. The first page still read, 1% better every day. I smiled. It wasn't a plan, it was a promise. I flipped through the pages day after day. Habit after habit, tiny notes that had rebuilt a life. Some pages were smudged, others filled with shaky handwriting from the hard days. But each one was proof that small steps, done consistently, could outlast any storm. People always ask me how I made my money back. They expect a secret, a formula, some insider trick. Just tell them the truth. I didn't chase profit. I chased peace, and peace paid me back. The numbers were just a reflection. The real profit was waking up every morning knowing that I'd built a life I didn't need a vacation from. The sun began to set outside my window, casting long golden lines across the room. I closed the notebook and whispered to myself, I lost everything once, and somehow, that was exactly what I needed to start living again. Then I stood up, put on my sneakers, and went for another walk.